Hello guys, this is your friend and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is what if Uzumaki clan leaves his inheritance for Naruto Part 1. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. My name is Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, son of Minato Namikaze, Yondaime Hokage, also known as Yellow Flash, and Kushina Uzumaki, also known as the Red Death or Red Hot-Blooded Habanero. I am also the Jinchuriki of the strongest Biju, Kyubi no Yoko, the nine-tailed demon fox. My life was not always this great. I was not always the Uzukage of a great nation and great clan of Uzushiogakure, which was once almost annihilated from the elemental nations that I rebuilt from scratch to be the strongest village and nation to ever exist and will ever. I did not always have all these beautiful women by my side that I love equally and unconditionally. I was once called demon, or demon brat spawn, for something that was beyond my control. I once wonder why they hate me. What did I do to deserve such treatment? The same people I had vowed I was going to protect when I had become a ninja for my village, the same people whom my father and mother had died protecting, the same people of the once strongest village in the elemental nations, Konohagakure, village hidden in the leaves, but now as I think about it, none of this wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for the villagers. These stupid arrogant people will never understand. I wouldn't have been the Uzukage of the strongest nation across the elemental nations. I wouldn't have got beautiful women to love me, and I certainly wouldn't have been the strongest man alive since the Rakudo Sennin. All I wanted was to be loved and recognize, to be recognized. I vowed to resurrect my once deceased family, whatever means necessary, through blood, sweat and tears. Not through fleshly or inhumane means, but by words and action. The legacy of the Uzumaki clan must live on. Let me tell you my story of where it all began. This is my legend, this is the legacy of the Uzumaki clan. That will teach the demon not to come around us in our family anymore, said one villager. Yay, let's get out of here before the demon-loving Hokage gets here, said another villager. You might be wondering what they are talking about. Well, it's no other than the village's troublemaker, Naruto Uzumaki, nine-tailed Jinchuriki of the Kyubi no Yoko. It all started 4 years ago on the same night as this October 9th, when the Kyubi attacked the village hidden in the leaf for no apparent reason. Their greatest Hokage, Minato Namikaze, gave his life to seal the demon inside an orphan boy. Said boy being Naruto Uzumaki, lying on the ground beaten, bruised and bleeding heavily in an alley away from prying eyes. Everyone was about to leave when they were suddenly hit by an oppressing wave of kill intent that stopped them in their tracks. Being civilians that they were, they couldn't move, some blackout from too much pressure, while the ninjas that were in the mix tried to get away but were blocked by the Hokage's personal guards. What is the meaning of this? Asked the Hokage angrily. Hokage-sama, we were finishing what the fourth started and repaying that what the demon did to OU. That villager didn't get to finish as a kunai was embedded where his heart lay, courtesy of the Hokage. Take these villagers and ninjas to Anko and Ibiki and tell them to have fun and don't hold back. The Sandame shouted. After a chorus of "Hi" from the Hokage bodyguards, they escorted the prisoners to the Anbu headquarters for Anko and Ibiki to look after them. Hokage-sama, what should we do with Naruto-kun? Asked the only remaining Anbu, who was wearing a crow mask. Take him to the hospital and don't leave him. We don't know what else these villagers will do to him while he is unconscious. Hi Hokage-sama, said the crow mask Anbu, and with that he departed to the hospital with an unconscious blonde in his arms. Next morning. Damn, what hit me? Groaned Naruto as he woke from his sleep. Morning Naruto-kun, how are you this morning? Asked the Hokage, smiling slightly at the boy he came to love as a grandson he never had. Morn Gigi, I don't know why the villagers hate me, I promise I didn't do them anything. Naruto said desperately. I believe you, Naruto-kun, just try to ignore them, okay? The smile faded into a frown as he spoke those words. Life was becoming more and more difficult for the young blonde, but the Hokage only hoped he made it through. Do you know why they hate me? Naruto asked, looking up at the old man. Big blue eyes stared inquisitively at the man. Hiruzen shook his head negatively. Sorry Naruto, but I don't why. Also, why are you not in the orphanage and on the street? He asked with a raised eyebrow. Well Gigi, they threw me out of the orphanage 6 months ago and I was living on the streets ever since. The Hokage growled lowly and muttered under his breath, those stupid people, when they would learn the difference between a kunai and the scroll it is kept in. Huh, you say something Gigi. I said I would deal with them later, okay Naruto-kun. Let's get you out of here and get something to eat. How does that sound to you? Sounds great Gigi, but I don't know why my family would leave me. Was it because they didn't want me Gigi? He asked, looking down at his lap. He then looked at the Hokage. Do you know who my family was Hokage Gigi? Sorry Naruto, but I don't know who your parents were. At that same time the Hokage could feel the hidden crow mask Anbu shift in his spot but didn't say anything. Oh, okay. Was all Naruto said before he blanked out deep in thought for a minute or so that he didn't hear the Hokage calling for him. Huh, you say something Gigi? Yes, I was asking if you are ready to leave and get something to eat and maybe get you somewhere to live and some new clothes as well. The old man said, hoping to cheer up the blonde. Yes, let's go. I hate the hospital, too much white for me. It makes me feel sick even though I am not. The next day Naruto wakes up in his new apartment that the Hokage had gotten him. It was nothing fancy, just a small one-bedroom with a small kitchen and sitting area right next to that. He had also gotten some food stuff like bread, eggs and milk. Thankfully the Hokage accompanied him, or else getting food would have been harder than he thought. Yo fur ball, are you up? The blonde thought in his head. What do you want brat? Replied a very angry and annoyed voice. You were right, the Hokage is lying to me. I don't see why he can't just tell who my parents were and why the fourth Hokage sealed you in me. It's not like I would tell anyone. The whole of Konoha probably knows already if how they treats me doesn't show it already. Look brat, as I told you yesterday, I dislike humans. You use each other to satisfy our wants and need. Some of you are worse than the demons you called us. Treating your own kind bad and a child no less for something he has no control over. You humans are despicable. There was brief silence for a few minutes until the blonde spoke. Hey QB, do you know who my parents are? Comma dot dot, comma dot dot, comma dot dot, comma dot dot, comma dot dot. I do. Would you tell me who they are? When you are older and stronger, then I would tell you. Gain my respect, then maybe I will indulge you. Eindwa. Never mind, just get stronger. And brat, Don, tell anyone I talk to you, okay? The less people know the better it is for both of us. Sure thing. I mean chat with you later Fluffy. And with that Naruto's voice faded out of his mind. The QB growled indignantly. Damn human, come in here and tell me that to my face. Let me squash you like the insignificant insect you are, human. Just like your mother. Can't wait to see how you will turn out in the future brat. Prove me wrong just like your predecessors, that not all humans are worse than demons, the QB thought. With that the QB returned back to what it was previously doing before it was disturbed so violently, and that was sleeping. Hokage's office. Here we find the Hokage, the famed professor and god of shinobi, sitting behind his desk in a battle he was pretty sure Kami herself couldn't win. Here he was fighting his arch nemesis, Paperwork. The famed Hokage who survived 3 great ninja wars was forced to be a paper pusher. How life was cruel for him as he thought if he uses a Kaden jutsu on the stack of paper that was glaring at him from the head of his table, would his secretary notice it was missing. As he was in a glaring contest with his paperwork, he didn't notice the same crow mask Anbu who was with him the day before just appear out of thin air until there was a cough. He looked up suddenly and blushed slightly with a cough. Ho, ehem, right, report Crow. Said Anbu straightened and began giving his report. Mission accomplished Hokage-sama, bandit camp eliminated. Very well Crow, nice work, your mission pay will be sent to you during the week. Is there anything else you would like to add, Crow? He said with a nod and finished with a question. Hi, the Crow mask. Anbu started, shifting on his feet in front of the man in charge of the village before continuing. I would like to request to be Naruto Uzumaki's personal guard, Hokage-sama. There was a long pause in the room. The Hokage stared long and hard at the Crow mask Anbu for a few seconds that seemed to stretch for time indefinite. The hidden Anbus shift in their spots as the temperature in the room drop a couple degrees. It wasn't until a few moments after then the Hokage spoke. Remove your mask, Captain. And with that the Anbu removed his mask and behind it was a shoulder-length raven-haired teen with black eyes and teardrops marks at both sides of his nose. Pretty sure everyone knows how Itachi looks like. Why do you want to do such a thing, Itachi? A question, if answered incorrectly, could lead to more harm than good. Without even missing a beat, Itachi spoke. Because Hokage-sama, a boy should not grow up being chased and beaten by the same people he will more or less have to protect in the future, and it is the least I can do for Kushina-sensei, said the now named Itachi, who was looking the Hokage straight in his eyes. The Hokage stared at Itachi for another few seconds. The hidden Anbu in the room didn't make a sound or even shift to scratch an itch. The moment was tense as it was. It wasn't too long before the Sandaime made up his mind, grumbling something intangible before saying, Fine Itachi, I am hereby giving a S-rank mission to protect one Uzumaki Naruto until he finishes the academy or until something of much more importance comes up. You are to report to me every 6 months on his well-being. Also, Itachi, if anything, and I mean anything, happens to him, so help me Kami, you will be my sparring partner for 6 months and I will have you fetching Tora for the next year. Am I understood? The Hokage finished in finality. Hi Hokage-sama. There was not an ounce of fear or lack of conviction in Itachi's face or posture. Such was expected of someone dubbed as the perfect killing machine. At the mention of Tora everyone had a shiver up their spine, as if there was something viler than seeing Orochimaru in a pink bathrobe and slippers with a yellow rubber duck going and take a bath. Dismissed Itachi, and I hope you do well on your assignment. Dismissed the Sandaime before he flicked his wrist, and like that Itachi was gone just as he came. As the Hokage was about to have some quality time reading his favorite orange book, he looked at the paperwork on his desk and could have jumped out his skin. The papers grew 2 times the size while he was taking with Itachi. Damn you Minato, was the shout that came from the Hokage's office, and all the Anbus in the room were snickering at their so-called fearless leader being reduced to nothing by a stack of papers. 1 week later, we find our favorite Jinchuriki at an abandoned training ground trying to throw some kunai that he got from the Hokage after bugging him for them. The Hokage had inquired of him as to what he wanted them for, and he told him it's for training for the academy so he wouldn't get left behind when all the children that he go to school with got training from their parents. So here he was trying to hit a training post for the 100th time for the day with some kunai. Itachi was in the trees watching with amusement at his never-giving-up attitude, thinking how much off his mother he inherited. It was midday and Naruto was still trying to get a kunai to stick to the post properly without staying for a few seconds then fall out. Itachi couldn't take it anymore and decides to help him. You know you are doing it wrong, stated Itachi, walking out from the tree line towards the blonde Jinchuriki. Naruto suddenly spun around, startled by the appearance of someone he didn't know. What? Who are you? And what are you doing here? You are not here to hurt me, are you? He asked quickly while suddenly backing up slowly. Itachi frowned when he heard this. Someone so young, barely out of their diapers, facing things some adults wouldn't in their entire life. Kushina would have killed all of them for even thinking bad about her son. Itachi shook his head from his thoughts. No, I'm not going to hurt you, Naruto-kun. I am actually a bodyguard the Hokage put to watch over you so no one will do you anything else. Itachi said. He was standing in the middle of the training ground with the blonde but staying a few feet away so he wouldn't scare him away. As I is saying, you were doing the exercise wrong and you have to put more power in your throws. Also, you can't swing your hand back too far sometimes or else you would overextend your throws. Naruto slightly narrows his eyes, watching Itachi for a few seconds as if he was trying to figure something out. Itachi stood still, allowing Naruto to come to terms with what he just said. The raven hair Anbu almost smirk under his mask as he watches Naruto watch him. The sight was almost funny. Keyword, almost. So you are one of those Anbu, right? Naruto asked with inquisitive eyes. He had seen and heard the old man talk to them while he was in the office. Itachi nodded his head at the blonde, showing he was correct in his assessment. So you gonna show me how it's done or stand there and watch me? Asked Naruto. With that, Itachi walked up to Naruto a little closer and without looking through 3 kunai at the 3 training post that was in the middle of the field, about 20 feet away from them faster than Naruto can see. All Naruto heard was 3 thumps. When he looks at the post he saw 3 kunai embedded in them direct at the center of the circle thingy. Naruto blinked before a large goofy grin lit up his face. Whoa, that was awesome. I didn't even see you move, you gotta show me how to do that, shouted an overexcited blonde bouncing on his heels like a giddy schoolgirl. He was thinking of all the possibility that can happen if he got this Anbu person to train him. He will get strong faster so he can get the fox to tell him who his parents are. Don't get ahead of yourself, brat. Getting strong is not about getting it down the fastest time. You can learn 1,000 techniques in a few years or so, Kakashi, but someone who only knows about 20 or so techniques and take time to master them can beat that person with those 1,000 techniques, jutsu. Why? Well, because that person with less techniques take time to master his own, whereas the one who has a lot of jutsu never take the time to master them, so he doesn't know how to use them properly. So you understand now, brat? Yay, I think I understand now, Kyuubi. Thanks for the help. The Kyuubi snorted. Whatever, brat, just don't get ahead of yourself. I will tell you who your parents are when the time is right. You just focus on getting strong to protect yourself later on in the future. Yay, sure, I can do that. Get strong to protect myself. It's a promise. I will be stronger than all the Hokages to protect myself, and any special people in my life. With that, the Kyuubi cut the mental connection between Naruto and itself. So will you teach me how to throw kunais, or better yet, would you teach me how to be a ninja? I want to join the academy but I have no one to train me. So when I join I would not be kept back in class because the children would have training with their family and I have none. So would you train me, please? And as if the universe was on Naruto's side, he unlocked the most feared dojutsu in existence, the feared puppy dog eyes. All of Itachi's mental powers came crashing down like a castle built of cards in front of a fan set on high speed, but Itachi was not going to let him walking away with a get-out-jail-free card so easily, so he thought of something that would save his years of Anbu mental training to keep up his facade. Okay, Naruto-kun, here's what I will do. I will teach you the correct way for throwing a kunai, and if you can throw 3 kunai at the same time with the same hand and hit all 3 of those markers in 1 week, I will train you. How about that? Are you up for it? Naruto grinned, pumped his fist in the air. Hell yeah, sensei, I am up for it. Once I have that stance down, you wait and see, by next week you would be begging to train me because I am that awesome. Believe it. I am sure you will get it down, Naruto-kun. Time skip. 1 year has passed since the 9-tailed Jinchuriki began his training with his sensei Itachi, and he is doing very well. He got the kunai technique in 1 week after lots of cuts and bruises. Itachi also taught how to unlock his chakra, so he now knows how to walk on a tree and on water as well. He also recently learned 2 of the 3 academy jutsu that are compulsory to know. The one he is having trouble with is Bunshin no Jutsu, and Itachi-sensei had said he will tell him the reason why he can't do the jutsu and also give him a jutsu that will substitute for it. He also learned the academy fighting style, but he wants to create his own style. Naruto also changed physically, also he no longer looks skinny and short, but he has some meat on his bones, even though he still have some of his baby fat still on his face and other parts of his body. We find our blonde making his way to training ground 43 next to the infamous training ground 44, or better known as the Forest of Death. As he was about to jump in the woods to head to his destination, he heard a small cry and he decided to check it out. As he gets closer to the cry, he saw a small girl about the same age as him surrounded by 3 boys a few years older than her. She was kneeling on the ground, tears running down her face, while the leader of the 3 boys, from what Naruto can tell, was telling her to say sorry for something. He didn't really care what it was, but from seeing this brought back memories of his past and he didn't want anyone to live through what he did, so he ran up to the leader and punched him in the back of the head and stand up in front the girl protectively. Hey, what are you guys think you are doing to this poor girl? What did she ever do to you for you to treat her like this? Asked Naruto rather angrily. The supposed leader of the trio got off the ground with a huff and snarled, "Who the hell are you? Wait a minute, blonde hair whisker marks, you're that kid my mom tell me not to go around, right? The prankster?" Asked the leader of the kids. "Yay, that's him." Boy number 2 answered. "My mom warned me about him also. She said something about demon, but I can't remember." Boy number 3 cuts in, "Anyway, you're gonna get it." Forgetting the boss while he had his back turned. They all laughed. "What are you going to do? We are in the academy and we are older than you. You don't even have a clan, so how hard can beating you be?" The leader said. With that, Naruto put his hand in a cross sign and the smirk. Right away the boys stopped laughing and backed away slightly. Meanwhile, Naruto was sweating in his mind, hoping the Bunshin no Jutsu would work this time so he can buy some time to get the girl out of the area, but as all the rest of time the Bunshin came out looking like it was just revived from the dead. It was looking sickly green and wobbling on the spot, then after a few seconds it fell to the ground and dispel. But that was all the time Naruto need, as he used that as a distraction to attack the leader with a straight right hook to his left jaw, which knocks him on the ground out cold. The other 2 were afraid to attack, which shows that their leader was the muscle of the group and he wasn't even much, just a schoolyard bully. With that they picked up their boss and ran away, saying they will tell their mothers. Naruto didn't really care because he didn't like 99% of the villagers already. So with that, Naruto turned back to see if the girl was okay, only to see her looking up at him with wide eyes from her place on the ground. Now that he got to look at her properly, he can see she is the Hyuga heiress that Sensei told him about when they were doing all of Konoha's most influential clan in the history lesson of Konoha. Naruto just give her one of his foxy grin that only he can do to perfection while scratching behind his head. "Hey, are you alright?" he asked, slightly worried that she was hurt. He didn't need people blaming him for something he didn't do. Hi, arigato for saving me," said the heiress. She was looking at the ground in embarrassment. Naruto nods his head, breathing out a sigh of relief. "Well, my name is Naruto Uzumaki, and what's yours?" he asked politely after having manners beat into him from Itachi literally on their monthly spars, where he can't last 1 minute even if his life depends on it. My name is Hinata Hyuga. Nice tea to meet you, Uzumaki SSS-san. He raised an eyebrow at her stuttering but just shook it off as her being weird. "Nice to meet you too, Hinata. I hope you don't mind me calling you that," he asked slightly. She shook her head negatively. "So what are you doing all the way out here? And where is your mother or father? Ka-san died a few months ago when my sister was born, and Tu-san doesn't have time for me anymore." She cringes at the memory of losing her mother. "Most of the time I am with one of the branch house members," Hinata said, unaware that she did not stutter for that whole sentence, but Naruto didn't call her on it. Right when Naruto was going to say something, a man with the same eyes as Hinata came into the woods, veins bulge around his eyes, most likely using his blood limit. Hinata-sama, oh thank God, I was looking all over for you. Your father would not be happy. Where did you ran off to? Asked the man. When he turned his head to see who she was talking with, he quickly grabbed her hands and dragged her away from Naruto, telling her that she should not associate with the likes him. All Naruto could really do was smile sadly at her and wave. By the time she blinks and goes to wave back, he was already gone from his spot in the woods. Hinata just had a sad look on her face, hoping she would be able to see her savior once again. Maybe he would be going to the academy at the same time as her. She can only hope. At the training ground, Itachi was waiting patiently, wondering what's taking his students so long, because he usually don't be late for his training. He didn't have to wait long before he saw a yellow blur shot out from the woods and land in front of him. Sorry for being late, sensei, had some problems on my way here, but that's been taken care of. Naruto apologies with his head bowed. He knew how much his sensei dislikes tardiness. Itachi nods his head, accepting Naruto's excuse. He wasn't one for being late for training. Okay Naruto-kun, here's the scroll that has the substitute jutsu for the bunshin. It's called Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Now this jutsu uses a lot more chakra than the bunshin. Even I can't use this jutsu to make more than 10 clones of myself. I want you to read to scroll carefully and then practice the hand signs. When you are done, then come to me in an hour and we will see how well you do. Okay Naruto. Hi sensei. He answered with determination in his eyes. -1 hour pass. Okay sensei, I am finished. Okay. Now do the jutsu and put as much chakra as you can without emptying your reserves. Fine. Here goes. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, and just like that 300 clones fill the training field all over. Wow, never thought I would see someone made this many clones since Kushina-sensei, thought Itachi. Clearly he was impressed. Okay Naruto, I am going to tell you the reason why so much people hate you, okay? What I say here today is not to be repeated to no one, said Itachi seriously. He stopped wearing his mask to their sessions after the first date, so Naruto could see how serious he was. Sensei, if you are talking about the Kyuubi, I already knew about him since I was 4. If Itachi was surprised, he didn't show it on his face, he just nod and leave it at that. It was not him to get into people's business, but there is one thing he had to make sure of. Naruto-kun, did the Kyuubi ever try to take over you or anything like that, and do you speak to it often? Not forgetting that Naruto said him instead of it. Well, now that I think about it, sensei, no, he never tried to take over me. He is really a nice guy once you get past the treats and stuff like that. He chuckled sheepishly. He said he would tell me who my parents were once I'm strong enough to know. So I am training hard so I can get him to tell me. Naruto said, pumping his fist out. He then looked at Itachi. Itachi-sensei, do you know who my parents are? Asked Naruto. Itachi just stood there looking down at Naruto, contemplating whether to tell him or not, but decided to tell him about his mother's family. He didn't think the boy can handle hearing his father, the 4th Hokage, his hero, sealed a demon inside him. Okay Naruto-kun, I will tell you about your mother's family, okay? I will tell you about your father when you are older and able to understand. With that said, Itachi led Naruto to a tree in the training ground to sit under so he can tell the story, after having Naruto release all his shadow clones and explaining to him the advantages of having shadow clones and the memory transfer. Time skip. 1 year has passed and Naruto is now 6 years old. We find him lying in his bed thinking about what he had done for the past year and the friends and rivals he had made. After that afternoon, when Itachi told him about his mother's family and the Uzumaki clan, how they were masters at fuinjutsu, the art of sealing, and kenjutsu, the art of swordplay, and how they were also one of the founders of Konoha and also the spiral that all ninjas chunin and up wear on their flak jacket is in memory of what the Uzumaki clan did for the Leaf Village. He made a special vow to honor his family no matter what. It was also said the Shodaime Hokage married an Uzumaki and they are the one that created the barrier that is currently around Konoha protecting it from invaders. Saying Naruto was mad about all of this was like saying Orochimaru would not come for Sasuke in the future, not that he knows that. The Uzumaki clan did so much for Konoha and the most they had to show for their friendship is the spiral. Also, from what Kurama told him, both Shodaime's wife and his mother were previous Jinchuriki protecting Konoha behind the scene and no one give the Uzumaki clan any credit for their hard work. Also, he learned the Kyuubi's name after 2 hours of asking, more like pestering, the Kyuubi for it. Naruto also has gotten some new friends, not that he cared, Shikamaru and his best friend Choji. He met them while he was enjoying his day off Itachi had giving him. He was sitting under a tree a ways from the park when the two boys came up and told him they usually camp there, looking at the clouds and eating. He sighed when he remembered that meeting. They were okay in his book, Shikamaru and Choji. Shikamaru was very lazy, typical Nara, and Choji was eating all the time. He also met his public enemy number 1 who was Itachi's younger brother, Sasuke Uchiha. He was as arrogant as an Uchiha can be and he hadn't even got his Sharingan yet. Just thinking about what will happen when that happens was giving Naruto a headache. He also hangs out with Hinata whenever he goes to the park to play or catch her following, more like stalking, him. She would make a good spy or assassin when she grows to be a ninja. He may not like the villagers and plans on bringing back his Uzumaki family, but that doesn't stop him from going and play with the little friends that he have. He is 6 years old after all. He also got stronger after he started learning fuinjutsu and when Itachi had him tested for his chakra elements, Itachi was very surprised to find out that he had 3 with wind being his strongest and rarest of the elements followed by lightning and then water. After that he started to train in learning to control them. He has asked the Hokage for some D-rank missions so he can have some money to buy what little he need. The blonde had also had his first kill on a small mission him and Itachi went on. It was to destroy a small group of about 10 bandits. What really had both the Sandaime and Itachi worried was when Naruto has his first kill. He had not spoken to anyone nor has anyone seen him for a week straight. They had left him to his own devices saying he needed time to recuperate from his experience. Naruto had turned a little colder towards everyone but Itachi and his 3 friends. Flashback. Itachi and Naruto were making their way out of the village to do his first ever mission outside the village. He was glad he was out. The world looks so different from the outside. They were traveling for 2 days and they finally made it to a small clearing in the forest. It had small tents with the biggest being in the middle. Itachi had Naruto send his clones to do recon to see if the information they had was right. Turns out they were right, with the exception of the boss being a C rank missing nin. Okay Naruto-kun, here's what we are going to do. These guys are easy. I have no doubt you would deal with the bandits, but watch out for the missing nin, okay? I know you can take him but I don't want you to underestimate your opponent. Itachi said, not looking at Naruto. So I would go east of the camp and you stay here, and in 5 minutes we attack, okay? Just don't do anything stupid. Finished Itachi. Without a reply Itachi disappeared. He was slightly worried for the blonde. The young Uzumaki had grown on him and he would be damned if Naruto got killed on his first mission. Plus he didn't know what would happen to the young heiress that had a crush on the blonde, which said blonde is completely oblivious to with all the fainting and stuttering she does. Okay sensei, I got you. Naruto whispered quietly. He was aware that no one was around but they had headsets. He created 5 shadow clones silently and waited patiently until the time was right. As Naruto and his clones walk into the camp, the five take point in front of Naruto. "Hey you kids, what are y'all doing here? This place is not for brats, so scram!" shouted one bandit. It was loud enough to draw attention to him. Little did they know that it was the same person. Not that they could tell because of the fox mask that Naruto was wearing. Naruto had on standard issue Anbu gear custom made for him, with the Tanto as well. Naruto said nothing, and before the bandit can say anything else, the five clones started going through hand signs, futon, Rinkuden no Jutsu wind release, drilling air bullet technique. Before the bandits knew what happened, they were flying back at breakneck speed in the opposite direction. Some were fortunate to survive while some landed very hard on their neck, causing it to break. Some had bones snap from the pressure of the attack and were left vulnerable. Before the remaining bandits can get their bearing, the clones rush them with their tantos drawn, impaling all those on the ground and fighting off the rest. Before they knew what happened, they were all dead. Some did put up a fight, but it was futile. There was one man, the missing nin, who stood with a shock look on his face. All his men were taken down by 6 brats. They were ninjas, yes, but brats nonetheless. His shock turns into anger. "Do you know how long it took me to set up that crew, you brats?" the nin shouted, staring at Naruto and his clones about 20 feet away from him. All Naruto did was dispel his clones and the memories came rushing back to him. He had to take a few deep breaths so as not to hyperventilate. The rain was now pouring down on them like it was sympathizing with Naruto for what he did. A lone tear fall out of his eyes, but the nin couldn't see any of this. Kyubi was silently watching to see if its container would go off the rail, but was thankful he kept his cool. It would not do well for him to freak out at this moment. Itachi had not moved from his spot in the east. He wanted to see if Naruto can handle it, but he silently had a clone nearby to interfere if things got out of hand for the blonde. Naruto just drew his blade and got into a stance Itachi taught him. His knees were bent slightly with his left leg forward, with the both hands on handle of the blade in a tight grip position in front of him, pointing upward in a defensive way. It was a stance for learners. He was now learning use blades. The nin saw this and pulled out a kunai and growled, "Okay brat, you wanna play? When I'm finished with you, you gonna wish you never leave your pathetic village." And with that, both him and Naruto rushed forward and clashed, kicking water in the process. "HN, you are kinda strong for a brat," the nin drawled out as they struggle for power. He was now coming to terms with the realization that Naruto was no pushover. The nin had enough and back flips and started running through hand signs, which Naruto saw and went wide-eyed at what jutsu he was going to use. He stuck his tanto in the ground and started running through the same hand signs, and they both shouted out at the same time, "Suiden! Suiryuden no Jutsu water release! Water dragon bullet technique!" With that, water formed from a small lake away from them, and 2 gigantic dragons formed and stood behind their respectful partners with glowing yellow eyes. With a mighty roar, they charge and crash into one another, causing a massive earthquake in the area. Naruto didn't let that stop him. After the clash, he started with new signs, futon, Rinkuden no Jutsu, wind release, drilling air bullet technique. The ninja didn't know what hit him. 1 minute he was shielding himself from the blast, the next minute he was hit with 3 compress air bullets. As he was getting up from the attack, he looks forward to see where his opponent was and saw nothing. Then his world turned upside down. He didn't even know he was dead. "That's what you get for taking your eyes off your opponent," thought Naruto as he finally finishes his battle, breathing harshly. The adrenaline finally wore out and he fell unconscious. Flashback end. After that event, Naruto never liked killing, but he knew he had to do it. It was in his profession. If he wants to create a new Uzumaki clan, he had to do it. He knew there would be a lot of death in the future. Naruto Uzumaki was not the same since then. He trained harder than ever. He was more self-centered, sticking to himself most of the time. Even the Hokage wanted to know why Naruto was behaving like that, but never got an answer. Naruto also learned the body flicker jutsu, which he thought was pretty cool, especially when he learned to do it in his elements. Now the blonde was on his bed thinking about what Itachi told him 1 week ago. Flashback. Now Naruto-kun, this is the last 2 years we have together before you begin the academy, and you are already ahead of everyone there. I am very proud of you as your sensei, but don't let that go to your head. You still have a lot more work to do, said Itachi. Said blonde was sitting on the ground paying close attention to what his sensei was saying, who he now viewed as a brother he never had. Now for the next 2 years we are going to be taking your training to the next level, harder than you ever have had before. I am going to train you till you break, then I would have the Kyuubi fix you up to do it all over again. As Itachi finished his sentence, he heard a gulp come from Naruto and inwardly chuckle. In all his years he had never seen someone progress so fast in the ninja arts. Not even he could excel this fast, but if he had to guess, it was only because of the help of the shadow clones that Naruto progressed so far so fast. Itachi had no doubt in his mind when he finishes his training, Naruto would be as strong if not stronger than him, and that is saying something. Oh Naruto-kun, this is a schedule of what we would be doing for the next 2 years. Itachi said as he passes the blonde a scroll with a blood lock on it. I have already given the Hokage a copy and told him we would be in training ground 44 for the first year of training, cause he would like to know how strong you have gotten. Yay, so he can see how strong his weapon is, growled out Naruto in a low voice so that no one can hear him, but Itachi heard but didn't say anything. So meet me at training ground 44 in 1 week at sunrise, okay Naruto-kun. Flashback end. Naruto looked over to his dresser top as he saw the scroll with his training schedule in it. As he picks it up and read through it for the umpteen times this week. He was pretty sure the first year of training alone would kill him with all the physical exercise alone he has to do. It was something Guy would have trouble with as well. He had met Guy during the year to help him with his taijutsu. Guy had proposed weights for him to wear, but he had already had on resistant seals. So there was no use. Next on the scroll was ninjutsu, which Itachi would help him with, followed by taijutsu and kenjutsu. Itachi had introduced him to Hayate during the year, so his sword play was up to snuff. Then finally, when all of this was done for the day, he would practice his fuinjutsu and writing. Out of all of this, the one thing Naruto is excited to get to was the fuinjutsu. It just comes naturally to him and it's a lot of fun. All of this is repeated for the first year, then he would work on perfecting all that he had learned in the first year. It's like Kurama said, makes no sense learning new justice and stuff if you can't use it properly. As he looks over to his clock on the wall to see the time and sees he has 2 more hours before leaving to meet Itachi. Well, time to go, thought Naruto as he makes his way out of his apartment and into the cool morning air. The sun was barely peeking over the horizon as he locks his apartment. Time skip. 2 years has passed, 1 year after that since they left the Forest of Death due to a mission that required Itachi, 1 year since he found out who his father was. He couldn't help but feel angry at him for putting such a heavy burden on him, but if he was in a similar position he would have done the same. 1 year since he got his father and mother's home after coming back and finding his apartment burnt down. He always wondered if his mother was a Jinchuriki like him, how come she didn't have to deal with the things he had to go through, until he asked the Hokage and he was told no one knew she was a Jinchuriki. So that leaves the question, how come everyone knew he was the container of the 9 tails? He was told, the Hokage told the council, and the civilian council members told the village, and that is how he ended up the situation he was in today. Also his spies, as in transformed shadow clones, told him that Danzo was and still is looking for him to recruit him in his root division. Well, he would have to wait a very long time before that happens. Also 6 months ago he had introduced Hinata to Anko after the girl was having problems with her family and being verbally abused by some of the main house members of the Hyuga household about not being able to beat her 4-year-old sister in a sparring match. It had taken the already shy girl's self-confidence to an all-time low that she can't stop stuttering, blushing or fainting while looking or talking to him. He can tell the girl likes him, but he was not going to be in a relationship with someone who is afraid to even talk, much less help him achieve his dream of bringing his clan back to prosperity once again. She has lots of potential, she just needed the right push. And Anko was just the person to help Hinata, at least in this situation. It was kind of funny to see how Hinata reacted to her new sensei. She had fainted for an hour straight after hearing where Anko spends most of her time and what kind of training she would have to endure. Naruto had a lot of faith in Anko, she would come through for Hinata's sake. If there was anyone he can relate to, it was Anko. XXXX. So now the academy was starting tomorrow, and here we find both Naruto and Hinata sitting on his father's head on the Hokage mountain, with Hinata sitting not too far from him snacking on a cinnamon roll that she loves so much. Her stuttering had decreased tremendously, but it still happens sometimes when he talks to her. Looking at her, he can see she is indeed a very beautiful young girl who would only get more beautiful as she grows up. A yen for your thoughts, Naruto-kun. You are sitting there staring at me for the past 2 minutes. Is there something you see you like? Asked Hinata as she finishes her snack. He shook his head to clear his thoughts. I was just thinking about the future and how I am going to bring back my clan. Naruto half lied as he turns back towards the village. Now I have to go through the boring academy, and I have to be in the same class as Mr. Arrogant as well. Might as well join Danzo and have him use me and Kurama as a weapon, Naruto said. He had told Hinata about the Kyuubi and who his parents were a couple months ago and give her the chance to stop being friends with him, but he didn't expect she would hug him and tell him how she didn't hate him for something he has no control over. From since then they had turned best friends along with Shikamaru and Choji. The Nara might be lazier than a sloth, but he was a bona fide genius. Never could beat Shikamaru at a game of shogi, came very close but never a win. So you are worried what he would do if you were to be the best in class? Inquired Hinata. She was looking directly at him. Me? Worried? Asked Naruto, pointing to his chest. I am not afraid of him. After all, I was trained by one of the best. Besides, I'm not going to be the best in the academy. Sensei told me not to show off, and that's what I am going to do. I already have a spotlight on me with being the container of the Kyuubi. I don't want any more attention. A true ninja never reveal too much about oneself. Deception is the best tool. Not even the Hokage knows what I am capable of. Quote, a part of being a ninja is to trick your opponent into false beliefs, then striking when he least expect it. Kinda like a fox. He smirks, showing off his canines. The Kyuubi just snorted in his head, which made the blonde chuckled lightly. Well, Hinata, see you tomorrow, said Naruto as he got up and dusted himself down. I will come and pick you up at 7:30 in the morning, cause the academy starts at 8. And with that, Naruto was gone in an ice Shunshin before Hinata could say anything. How come he knows Shunshin and I don't? A pouting Hinata asked to no one in particular as she makes her way home. This can't be more boring, thought Naruto as he was sitting next to Hinata at the back of the classroom. First day of school and he already wanted to be somewhere else. He was wearing Anbu-style pants with ninja sandals. He had on a white close-fitting t-shirt with orange strips that ran along it that showed off his muscles. He have for an 8-year-old boy, courtesy of all the training he did with Itachi-sensei and Guy. He didn't carry any weapons with him, seeing no need to since he was in the academy, and he didn't want to answer anyone wanting to know why a boy now starting the academy was carrying weapons. Hinata clothing still remained the same. Her clothing is like in the anime in Shonen Jump, though the jacket was not zip all the way up, only up to her mid-ribs section just under her developing bust. Naruto could see working with Anko has already started to change her personality a little bit, hopefully not much since he kind of liked the shy Hinata a little bit. He was brought out of his daydreaming by an elbow to the ribs courtesy of Hinata. He looked over at her and saw her eyebrows knit together in slight annoyance. Naruto-kun, are you paying attention? Asked Hinata. You spaced out for a few minutes and it is now lunch. So let's go and get something to eat. I made extra so you can share with me if you like to. Blushed Hinata at the last part. Naruto nodded, his boredom completely forgotten. Yay, sure, why not? I didn't walk with anything to eat anyway. He agreed as they made their way to an empty spot under a tree in the school playground. As they were on their way, Naruto spotted Sasuke and his horde of fangirls and had to chuckle inwardly. He looks like he is having fun, thought the blonde. As if the brunette hair boy heard him, he turned and glared at the blonde, at which Naruto just grinned and returned to walking behind Hinata, who is leading him to their destination. The rest of the day went as a blur for Naruto, with occasional chatter with Hinata, Shikamaru and Choji. He made it a point to follow Shikamaru's role and sleep through some of the lectures, much to the irritation of Hinata and the lecturer, who didn't like the blonde anyhow. He spends the rest of the afternoon with Hinata until she has to go and train with Anko, or crazy snake psychopath, as Hinata nicely phrased it. As she left for her destination, he wondered where his sensei was, since he hadn't seen him in a while. Also, if this is how his next 5 years in the academy would be. As he thought about it, he could only sum it up in one word: troublesome. XXXX. 5 years have passed and a lot has happened. First, and one of the biggest things, was that his sensei Itachi killed his whole family down to the last child in his clan, but made a big mistake by leaving his younger brother, Sasuke, alive. Sometimes he wonders if Itachi was sane in the head to leave Sasuke alive. Itachi also gave him a present before he left the village, and only the Hokage, Hinata, Anko, 3 doctors, and his new sensei Jiraiya of the Sennin, which he found out was his godfather by reading his parents' letter to him giving by the Hokage, knew about the gift. Which was a surprise to everyone, but they didn't question it. Flashback. Naruto was heading to the Uchiha clan compound estate. He wanted to talk to his sensei about training and other personal stuffs he had in mind. As the estate came into view, a shiver suddenly ran up his spine. He stops and looked around only to see no one. The streets were cleared of any life, which was understandable since it was night out already. As he entered the compound, the first thing that he noticed was the place was dark and completely void of any life whatsoever. The second thing was that there was a feeling of death hanging in the air. He had already killed, when he and Itachi had gone on a mission to deal with some bandits that was harassing a small town north of Konoha, and it was not a pleasant experience, but he knew, being a ninja, he would have to kill often. He was broken out of his thoughts when he heard a blood-chilling scream coming from the part of the compound he knew where Itachi and his family lives. As he raced to the direction, he was shocked to see all the bodies that littered the place. He was wondering how he didn't notice it before. Some were burnt badly, while some their throat and necks cut or sliced clean through. It was clearly a very disturbing sight to look at. He was sure if he hadn't already killed on multiple occasions, he would have broken down and emptied his stomach at the sight before him. As he made it to the dorm where he heard the scream, he saw a shadow head out from the room and made its way into the open streets. If Naruto wasn't a trained ninja, he would have probably missed it. So with that, he decided to follow and see what or who this person is. As the figure suddenly stopped and turned around, Naruto saw 2 pair of Sharingan eyes spinning and staring at him with a bored expression. There was only one person he knew with that expression. Itachi Sensei. What's going on? Why is everybody dead? What happened here? Asked a slightly scared Naruto. It was not every day you see a once powerful clan reduced to this. Right now he couldn't even come up with a word. He was too scared right now, and was made things worse was that his sensei was bathed with blood over his skin with an object in his hand. It looks to be a jar with liquid inside it. Itachi was surprised but didn't show it. Naruto-kun, what are you doing here? Never mind, I was on my way to see you. I have something for you. As he said that, he walked forward and placed the object on the ground and stepped back. What happened here, sensei? Asked Naruto as he looked at the object. He can see something floating in it, but it was too dark to tell. Well, what can I say? There was a pregnant pause before Itachi continued. I was testing my strength. Itachi replied in his bored monotone as he ran his hand through his hair. He was wearing his Anbu armor and clothing with his tanto strapped to his back. Did you kill your own family? Everyone. Naruto shouted. All Itachi did was nod. I left Sasuke alive. I couldn't bring myself to kill him. Why did you do it, sensei? Was it worth it? Shouted Naruto. He lost the will to stand and was now on his hands and knees, breathing hard on the verge of tears. His sensei, someone he treated like a big brother, had just killed his family, all of them, like if it was nothing. How was he supposed to take it? He will be branded as a traitor. Now everyone was going to hate you. He hated the situation he was in. It made it feel vulnerable, weak. He had dropped his mask and showed his true self. He had not cried since that night when he was 4, but here he is on his knees, tears streaming down his face. Only 3 persons has even seen his true self, and one of them was standing right in front of him. As Itachi watched Naruto, he felt remorse for what the blonde was going through right now. It must be tough. For him to drop his mask and cry openly was not something he would ever say he had seen Naruto do since they met that day. Sure, he lets his true self show once in a while, but to openly cry was another thing. Naruto would be one of the greatest ninja one day, if not the greatest. He have no illusion about that, but it broke his heart just as much as it broke his heart to have Sasuke live through what he put him through a few minutes ago. So with that, Itachi made up his mind. Listen, Naruto-kun, I'm sorry, but I don't have much time left. Please take care of Sasuke for me. I know you two don't get along well, but please, protect him. He is all the family I have in the world, including you. With that, Itachi turned and was about to walk away, but stopped and turned back to Naruto. I have one last order for you before I go. If you want to know why I killed my clan and leave Sasuke alive, take my gift, Naruto, and use it. Get strong. You are already almost as strong as me. By the time you finish the academy, you would be as strong, if not stronger, than me. Next time we meet, we will be enemies, and then we will fight. If you win, I will tell you, and if you lose, you will die, Itachi stated, his visage gone dark and his voice cold as the night. While that is being said, his Sharingan started spinning wildly. Then it shifted design into a new design that Naruto had never seen, his Mangekyo Sharingan, and then shifted back after a few seconds. As Itachi was going through his speech, Naruto was staring at him with wide eyes and shock on his face. His sensei wants him to get strong, stronger than him, so they would be able to fight. He was going to have to kill the only brother figure he had in his life. Naruto was wondering if this was all just a bad dream. Just hoping he would wake up and everything would be fine. But he knew better than that. So with that, Naruto looked down at the cylindrical object on the ground. At the same time, both of them heard shuffling of feet headed to their direction, and Itachi looked in the direction and looked back at Naruto only to find the blonde was already gone. He didn't even feel him leave. Itachi was pleased at that. Yes, Naruto Uzumaki would be the greatest one day. His student, the Yondaime's legacy, the last Uzumaki who wants to protect those he loves and bring back the Uzumaki clan to the once powerful clan they once were. The legacy of the Uzumaki clan. As Itachi looked forward, he saw Sasuke coming in his direction with a kunai in his hand. Naruto was not too far from Sasuke and Itachi's location, hidden behind a building, watching Sasuke and Itachi converse. He could see Sasuke was crying and Itachi was telling him about something about hate and detest him, but he couldn't make out all of what they were saying. As he was watching them, Itachi suddenly disappear and appear on top an electrical pole, and as he watched, he saw Itachi's Sharingan started spinning. Then it shifted into the Mangekyo Sharingan, in the shape of a windmill shuriken. Then he heard Sasuke started screaming, then collapse on the ground, twitching every couple second. He watched Itachi leave, surprised what he saw. Was Itachi sensei crying? Flashback end. As he was on memory lane, he began to think about his life from then onward. He trained to the bone. It also helped that he was being trained by one of the strongest ninjas alive. He still remembers how he met Jiraiya. It was a year and a half after the Uchiha incident. He was making his way out of the bathhouse that he was in until he heard giggling and went to check and saw the same person his parents had talked about in their letter. Also specifically the same person his mother had warned him about, and what would happen to him, Naruto, if he turned like him, Jiraiya. Even though she was dead, the letter was pretty scary at that part. A shiver run down his spine just thinking about his mother angry at him. From all the stories he heard of her, it was suicide to argue and make her mad. He learned that she almost killed Jiraiya for peeping on her, even though it was by accident. From the pictures he saw with her, she was very beautiful. Even more beautiful than Hinata, he would have to admit. Her long red hair alone was captivating to him. Back on topic, he remembers pushing Jiraiya in the female side of the bathhouse, which had Anbu and Jonin Kunoichi who were relaxing. It was very enjoying watching. That was payback for peeping on his mother. Even though she was quite beautiful, he had to admit. His father must have been a happy bastard with such a beauty. He often caught himself daydreaming about his mother. He would give anything to see her just once, do anything to have her part of his life. This was his mother he was thinking about. Maybe it was the sleepless nights he have been getting since the incident. Yep, that was it. Back to watching Jiraiya get the hell beat out of him. Said man was lying on the ground twitching for a few moments, then the next he was up like nothing ever happened. After that meeting with him, the man had tried for 2 weeks straight to get on Naruto's good side. Naruto finally caved in and give the man a chance to make up. Besides, he could be valuable asset to the blonde in the future, and thinking about the training Naruto can get was making him giddy like a schoolgirl inside. Naruto was strong, hell he was Anbu level, but training with Jiraiya can make him even stronger. Another memory Naruto remember was Hinata becoming his official girlfriend about 3 years ago, 2 years after start the academy. If someone said that Hinata would become who she was today, any sane person would have asked if they are talking about the same shy, stuttering Hinata that everyone knew. If they saw Hinata now, they would have fainted or have a heart attack from a nosebleed and high blood pressure. This Hinata was a total vixen, to sum it up in one word. Even Kurama had made a few offhanded comments about the new Hinata, which Naruto couldn't agree more on. This Hinata is the one from RTN, a perfect mixture of Hinata and Anko. She had finally gotten the courage to finally tell him she loved him. She was also not the weak girl anymore. To put simple, she is around Jonin level. She doesn't win in her spars with her sister, but she doesn't lose either. She even created a few techniques on her own with the help of Anko and him. She is also treated better now in her clan. Her sister, while mad at first about not being able to best her sister anymore, grew to love and appreciate the closeness they develop afterwards. She even went as far as to ask her Oni-san for help in her training. So Hinata took it upon herself to train her sister when her father and relatives aren't around. Hinata kept to herself, reserving most of her talents like her Naruto-kun. No one besides Naruto and Hinata knew what each other is capable of. Even though she is 13 years old, her developing body shows otherwise. Curves in the right places, full pink lips, a round and soft in her full C-cup. She was an early bloomer like most Hyugas, but a total goddess in his eyes. The only girl who can give his Jaime a run for her money was the Yamanaka heiress Ino, who is right behind her when it comes to looks, followed by Sasuke #1 fangirl, Sakura Haruno. Naruto had also mastered his father's 2 signature technique, with the Hiraishin being the hardest. It took him and Jiraiya 2 years just to understand the formula. Naruto knew it was Shika Fujin, but there were other elements involved that he couldn't understand. He had finally found out that it deals with blood. After mastering it, he had to train with it to get used to the speed. The first time he used it, he threw up his lunch, and the next time he overshot the marker and ran into a tree. He was already fast. Faster than most Jonin, but to move so fast that time seemed to stop was another thing. He had gotten Hinata a present. It was a silver chain being the same color as her eyes and a stone that was very hard, and he heard was one of the most expensive stones out there. It was lavender color and had seals of the Hirishin engraved on it. So he can reach her anytime she wanted, or he can teleport her to him. The stone was made with adamantine, which was a very strong and durable stone, said to be on par with Orochimaru's Kusanagi sword. He had even formed a rivalry with Sasuke Uchiha, not that they had anything going, mind you. The emo seemed to get even more arrogant, and his fangirls seemed to love it. Ino stopped being a fangirl after hanging out with Naruto and his crew more often and would sometimes join them in training. They made sure not show too much because they don't want anyone knowing how strong they were, well, Naruto at least. Not even the Sandaime knew how strong Naruto was. He made Jiraiya promise not to tell him about the Hirishin and the other jutsu he was working on. The blonde was also working on finishing the Rasengan like his father wanted to by adding elements. Guess what? Easier said than done. So he decided he would take his time, no need to rush. He would work on perfecting what he knew already. He had also found one of Orochimaru's bases on the outskirts of the village. It was a madman's fortress, pieces of body parts here, DNA there. He also found something interesting. That's an understatement to the things Orochimaru deals with. So here he is sitting at the back of the class near a window with his back towards it. Hinata was bracing on him while talking to Ino and some other girls about stuff he don't really care about. He also had his small fan club, much to Hinata's dismay, but unlike Sasuke, who ignores them, he made it a point to at least acknowledge their existence, sometimes even spending some of his precious time entertaining them with whatever they had in mind for him. Just sometimes. Some days they would hang out during lunch or after school, which he wasn't really into, but he didn't want to be rude and end up like Sasuke. Naruto's personality changes well after that night with Itachi. Naruto took it upon himself to act more like Itachi, calm, cool, collected and mysterious, which started earning him some fangirls. It sometimes freaks the hell of Hinata and annoys Anko to no end. He wore a black pants with red strips running up the sides, a white muscle t-shirt which showed out his muscles, which had buff up considerably since he started training with Jiraiya, much to Hinata's and his fangirls' joy. Also he had mesh armor over that and a black and red jacket with the Uzumaki spiral on the back. He had kunai and shuriken holster strapped to his right leg and a pouch on his belt on the back of his left side. He had a lot of seals on his skin. Some of them are resistant seals that Hinata and him have on, and also on his palm of his hand has his mother's sword sealed in it. I will describe the sword later. On his right hand has a tattoo of a giant fox with 9 tails which are running up his arm to his shoulder, then turn and headed straight to the seal that was located on his stomach. He also grew out his hair like his father, which was now halfway in his eyes, which he constantly have to move it out of the way. He would have cut it, but Hinata said she liked it like that, it made him look more bad, as she puts it. He was taller too, reaching a height of 6 feet, being one of the tallest boys in class, with Shikamaru and Shino being an inch taller than him. Hinata changed as well. She was 5 feet 8 inches, placing her as one of the tallest girls in class, tied with Ino and a girl named Amy. She wore a purple tank top that showed off her bountiful and lavender and purple jacket like the one she had when she was younger, but this one was thinner. She had taken a page out of Anko's book and gotten a mini skirt which was purple as well, and it reached about halfway down her thigh, inches above her knee, much to her father's charging. She wore a body mesh armor like Anko, but this stops up to her knees and takes over her whole hands, hiding the seals she have on. She had seals as well, but not as much as Naruto. She had the resistance seals and also seals that are in both her palms holding two weapons her love had gotten her. Her love for Naruto had grown over the years. She loved Naruto with her whole heart and would do anything for him. She may not be shy anymore, but sometimes he does things to make her blush and stutter. Today was the last day of the school term as well as their school lives and the last 7 counting down to be a genin. They were given a week off before the exams come around. She can only imagine the relief her boyfriend must be feeling right about now. XXXX. It was just 5 in the evening and they were making their way to their favorite spot after the wonderful date that they had. Surprisingly, the restaurant owner didn't throw him out, but the waiter could have used some employees' booster tips or something, because every time he came around he would always glare at Naruto for God knows what. Okay, he knew what, but still. As they settle on the Yondaime's head, Hinata suddenly straddled Naruto's lap and kissed him passionately on his lips with all the love and compassion she could muster. Naruto was taken aback by the gesture, but he was not one to look a gift horse in its mouth, so he returned the kiss with equal fervor. After a few minutes of moaning and lip-locking, they pulled away for the much-needed air, but they were still close enough to feel each other's breath on their lips. Hinata didn't know what possessed her to do what she did, but she wouldn't change it for anything. The kiss lit a flame inside her like she never felt before. I love you, Naruto-kun, with all my heart, and I would follow you wherever you go. No matter what the consequences may be. You are everything I would want in a boyfriend and everything I would want in a husband, and I hope to one day bear your child and help you revive your clan. Hinata said as her breathing calmed and she was looking straight in his eyes with love and admiration. Naruto was a little shaken with her confession. Yes, he knew she loved him, but he didn't know it ran that deep. All he could do was smile, a true smile that was only reserved for her, Enko, and sometimes Jiraiya when he wasn't being a pervert. Somewhere near Omegakure, Jiraiya felt the urge to shout that he was a super pervert but pass it off as the cold air getting to him. Lime alert. Back to Konoha, Naruto had taken the opportunity to kiss Hinata again, but this time as they were lip-locked his tongue came out of his mouth, probe her bottom lip asking for entrance, which she happily gives him. She moaned as he sucked and licked the insides of her mouth and tongue, exploring it as if he was looking for treasure. His hands were making its way up to tank top to her as she pulls back a little from bracing on him to give his hand more room to work its magic. When they finally meet their destination, he give Hinata right a light squeeze, which in turn made her moan a little louder as she unlatched from his lips. Don't stop, Naru-kun, please, it feels so good, moaned Hinata as he squeezed her a little harder. Naruto renewed his efforts as he turned around to put her on the ground, but what she felt was a soft bed. When she opened her eyes, she was not on the Hokage's monument anymore, but she was in her blonde's bedroom. Her thoughts were cut short as Naruto latched onto her neck and started placing soft kisses and sucking on spots that were driving her crazy. Ooh, oh yes, right there, Naruto-kun. She almost screamed out as he attacks her neck in a frenzy of kisses and love bites. He suddenly pulled back and placed his hand at the bottom of her tank top to take it off, which she happily let him do. She was too engrossed in the pleasure Naruto was giving her to say anything, not that she would have. As he took her top off, his breath hitched in his throat. This was the first time he'd seen her topless. They had made out countless of times but never reaching this point. As Naruto fumbled with the clip at the back of her bra strap, he latched his lips back onto her in another passionate makeout session. Hinata wrapped her arms around his neck, pulling him closer to deepen the kiss as much as possible. All the love she has, with a little lust, she was pouring into this makeout session. Naruto unlatched from her lips and moved down her body, sucking on her neck and throat slowly, moving to her, which were now free from their confine. To Hinata, the slow pleasure was tortuously good. She wanted him to speed up and she didn't. She wanted him to spend more time kissing her though, but as soon as his breath reached her, more specifically her nipples, the thought evaporated out of her mind. Naruto started kissing around her nipples, never touching it, It was driving Hinata insane since they were hurting, begging for some attention. She was about to voice her complaint when he suddenly latched onto her right and started to suck on it. Naru, she sighs in bliss, loving the way he was being gentle with her, nibbling on her nipples and the flesh surrounding it. She never thought her would be this sensitive. Yes, she knew it was an erogenous zone, but damn it if this pleasure was not out of this world. He exhale his on breath on her now wet nipple, and when the cool air catch it she arch her back and breathe out a yes, as he continue his ministrations. Her moans encourage him, so he moved onto her left and repeat the same thing, while letting his hand deal with the other that was left. As he was doing this he slip a hand down her toned stomach and into her shorts and panties and started to rub her wet pink lips down there, making her moan loudly. Her legs instinctively close, trapping his hand between, movements reduced to nil. Ah, oh, don't santo. Her pleasurable moans were silenced when he kissed her deeply, passion and lust fighting for dominance. He unlatched from her lips and looked at her. Eyes closed, breathing unstable and face flushed with a thin sheen of perspiration. The experience was doing more to her than he thought. He smiled and kissed her cheek. Come now, Haim, you have to let go of my hands or I won't be able to pleasure you properly. At his coaching her cheeks darkened considerably. Though her eyes were still closed, the action showed that she heard him. She swallowed the lump that was in her throat and released his hand. It was not that she didn't want him to, trust me she did, but the sudden influx of pleasure caused her to automatically close them. Naruto smirked. Without waiting any more he pulled down her shorts and her black lace panties as well at the same time. As he did this, he was assaulted with her scent, which was very intoxicating to him, and the sight of her thoroughly wet made him lick his lips unconsciously. He smiled at her. My Haim, you really are enjoying yourself, you are soaking wet. He watched her face turned a few shades of red and she instinctively closed her foot. Shut up Naruto-kun. It's your fault, stuttered out Hinata as she was starting to feel a little embarrassed being fully in front her boyfriend. Come on Haim, no need to hide or be shy around me. And if it's my fault, let me rectify my mistake. As she was going to reply she didn't get to start her sentence as Naruto opened her legs and give her lower lips a long lick. Naruto-kun, screamed Hinata as the pleasure hit her full force. She never felt this way before. So much pleasure has to be a sin, she thought. She didn't get to finish her train of thought as his tongue slipped through her folds and started massaging her insides. Oh my god Naru-kun, that feels so good, yes, yes. Keep going, pleaded Hinata as she grabs a handful of hair on his head and pushed his face further into her womanhood. She couldn't believe this was happening. Here she was with the boy of her dreams who was eating her out for all it's worth, and she loved it. Her breathing started to get deeper and erratic as she was nearing her release, and she knew that all she needed was one final push. That came when Naruto redirected his attention on her. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, I'm coming Naru-kun, shouted Hinata at the top of her lungs as she pushed his face further in and came all over his face and in his mouth, also spraying some on the bed. Naruto didn't mind, she tasted like cinnamon buns to him. You taste like cinnamon buns Haim, very delicious, said an out-of-breath Naruto while he watched Hinata came down from the realms of pleasure. Hey Hina-chan, you alright? Asked a slightly worried Naruto, which all he got in reply was nothing from the still out-of-daze girlfriend. He wondered if he went a bit too far. Naruto licked what he can off his face and wiped the rest off with his t-shirt that he took off. He stand up to walk around the bed to go to Hinata with his heart on, proudly on display, which Hinata saw, which draw her out of her fairyland. Wow, that was wonderful. Sight really amazing actually Naruto-kun. Her breath had started to even out. Now it's my turn to pleasure you. Before he knew what happened, he was on his back on the bed and Hinata was kissing him with her tongue in his mouth, trying to get a taste of herself as well. She had to say he was right, she did taste a little cinnamon within his natural taste. Then she moved to his neck and started to suck on one spot for a few minutes and bite him, leaving a mark. Ah, Haim. Naruto moaned out as she bit him and leave a red mark on his neck just above his shoulder so everyone can see he was already taken. She wasn't afraid to mark her territory. She moved down to his pecs, then to his abs, and kisses and licks each of them as she meets his pants. She looked up at Naruto and smiled seductively at him while biting her bottom lip. Then she took his pants off and looks in amazement at the huge tent in his boxers. She started to rub him through the fabric as Naruto groaned at her ministrations. Stop teasing me, Haim. She didn't want to keep her boyfriend waiting, so she pulled down his boxers and almost got slapped in her face by his 8-inch long rod. Naruto-kun, you are a big boy. I am going to enjoy myself with this bad boy, Hinata said as she wrapped both her hands around his robe and started to pump his manhood up and down, which was thick with pulsing veins. She can see some pre-cum coming out from the head as well. She then ran her tongue along the tip of his length, then engulfs it in her mouth, which Naruto moaned deeply at. Oh yes, that feels so good, Haim. After which she pushed more of his length down her throat slowly to get accustomed to his size. After a few minutes of experiments, she was now bobbing her head up and down at an alarming rate while massaging his balls. Naruto was on cloud 9 or higher. The pleasure he was feeling was unreal. He could feel he was almost about to burst, which he grabbed onto the sheets as his beautiful girlfriend enjoyed herself pleasuring him. Hinata sped up her pace, and not too shortly after he came in her mouth, a mouthful of jizz to satisfy the hungry girl. She then pulled till the tip was only in and swirled her tongue around it to make sure she got all of his seed, suck him as well, and then disengage with a loud pop sound. Some of his cum flow out of the side of her mouth, which she scoop up with her index finger. You taste good, a little salty but warm and really good, chimed Hinata as she crawled up the bed to lie down next to her equally boyfriend. I love you, Naruto-kun. Can I stay here for the rest of the day? Sorry, but no for you as yet. I have a surprise for you later. Naruto just nodded at her. She kissed him on his cheek and snuggles up next to him to share his warmth. You can stay as long as you want, Hinata-chan. He replied with a smile of his own. With that, they spend the rest of the day cuddling and making small talk. Lime end. They were making their way to the Hyuga compound hand in hand, just enjoying each other company in the evening air. Hinata was latched on to his right arm while he has his left in his pocket. They were getting many stares and glares, but they didn't let that bother him. So Naru-kun, how's that project you are working on coming? Asked a slightly inquisitive Hinata as she looked up at the blonde. He answered without looking at her, well, it's harder than I thought, but I am getting there. Just a couple more months and I should have it down. Naruto would have to say the person was a genius for creating that jutsu, but they should have known not to mess with the laws of nature and the gods. There will always be consequences and someone will misuse the jutsu. He saw the jutsu used once in the past, but he was the only one that knew about it. Such disrespect should not go unpunished. He would find the person who used it and make them pay. With that, they arrive at the Hyuga household. Well, this is where you get off. I will see you in 1 week. Naruto said while looking in the large gates at the entrance. Why don't you come in, Naruto-kun? I'm sure Hanabi-chan would be happy to see you. You haven't visited her in a while. Naruto sigh. Sorry, Hina, but I can't. I have some stuff to do. Plus, not everyone in your clan likes me. The guards at the gate heard what he said and just looked at him impassively. While they had no ill will for the boy, they couldn't fathom why Hiyashi would allow his daughter to associate with such a boy. But they dare not question him. Hanabi, who at first wasn't so keen on seeing Hinata and Naruto together, had inquired of his sister as to what made her like Naruto. What made him so special that she couldn't find some other boy to like that was socially acceptable. Hinata had given her a few reasons why, but insisted that Hanabi get to know Naruto before judging. At first, Hanabi was reluctant to even acknowledge his presence, much less talk, but after being confronted by the boy himself courtesy of Hinata, and later talking once in a while, she saw firsthand that Naruto Uzumaki was not some outcast many made him out to be. He was just another boy, an orphan looking to make friends. He was funny and surprising, keen, and had an acute and devious mind if his pranks were anything to go by. And if there was anything that stood out about Naruto Uzumaki, it was that he was unpredictable to the highest power. After those few meetings, she grew to immensely enjoy his company, even sparring with him on a few occasions. But unlike her sister, she never beat him in a spar. She never lands a hit on him to begin with. On a few occasions, Hinata had caught Hanabi silently spying on Naruto with the kind of look in her eyes that Hinata didn't find humorous. But Hinata never confronted her about it. Back to the present. Fine. Just don't forget to pick me up graduation day, she sighs dejectedly. She was slightly sad, but she knew he was right. Before they parted was she pull the blonde close to her and tiptoe and give him a kiss which lasted for about 10 seconds before pulling away. I love you, remember that, okay Foxy-kun? A smirking heiress said as she walks away with a sway in her hips. She knew he was watching her. Naruto left eye twitch at the nickname Anko and her had given him. Thinking about Anko, she was getting distant as of late. He wonders what that was all about. Oh well, no need stressing about that now. I'm one step closer to my goal. He folds his hands behind his head and walked off to where only he knew. Couple days later we find Naruto walking down the streets of Konoha wondering. He didn't have anything to do today. Well, technically he could go and train, but he was doing that all week. As he passed a food stand he heard his name called. Looking to see who it was, his face brightened at Anko waving at him with a few dango in her mouth. He shook his head at that. She was as bad as him with ramen. Oh, hey Anko, he waved back. What can I do for you? He inquired, walking up to her at the shop. What? I can't see and talk to my favorite Foxy-kun. She grinned, finishing off her favorite snack. Naruto sighed. That nickname again. Okay then, how are you Anko? I haven't seen you in a while. I was wondering if you were avoiding me. Is something wrong? The grin that was on Anko's face faded and she looked down at her remaining dango. There was silence at the table for a few moments while Anko ate her dango until it was finished, then she decided to speak. You want to spar or something? It came out more pleading than she wanted to admit, but she didn't care. She had to get this off her chest today. Naruto shrugged. Why yay, sure, I don't have nothing to do. That was the truth, and he wanted to know what was her mind that have her acting so un-Anko-like. A few minutes later and they were in training ground 44. At a suitable field where they can have their little spar. They were both facing each other. Ever since they left the dango shop Anko hadn't said anything which was bothering him. You sure you're feeling okay Anko? We can spar another time Yano. Naruto-kun, do you like me? She asked silently, her eyes staring up at him, hands shaking slightly. Naruto blinked. Then he blinked again and again. Where the hell did that came from? The question caught him completely off guard. Yeah, I like you, Anko, you know that. He reassured her, still slightly uneasy as to where this was going. Where is all this coming from? No, I mean, do you like me Naruto? He was really confused now. Where is she going with this? Unless. Naruto stared at her with a straight face. You know I am with Hinata, so why ask me such a question? Okay, I'm gonna get straight to the point. I like you, a lot. She started. First I thought it was just a crush I had developed a couple months ago, but then I started thinking about you. Then before I know it I can't get you out of my mind. My feeling developed into full-blown love. She took a deep breath after that confession. This was taking more out of her than any training could. She was not accustomed to this whole confess your feelings stuff, but for him she would do it. She had to be with him. If this was any other guy, They would have had to wait until Orochimaru turned good before she would do this. But Naruto is different, she had to have him. Even if she had to beat the crap out of Hinata and convince her to share him. He was everything she wanted in a man. Also, he can relate to the pain she faced, even though her pain in no way compares to his. So I just want to know if you find me girlfriend material. I mean, what you think of me. She was practically trembling, the fear of rejection was evident. She can handle being rejected by the villagers, but the person who she fell for was another thing. Naruto could literally smell the fear coming off of her. He felt very sorry for what she was going through. To drop her mask and do this must be hard for her. He was truly sorry, but he couldn't do this to Hinata. She was amongst the first to accept him. He couldn't cheat on her. He breathed in deeply. This was going to be an awkward day. I'm sorry, Anko, but I can't like you and Hinata at the same time. I don't think she would like that. He dejectedly said. The pain and sorrow he felt for her was evident in his voice. Anko just nodded and bowed her head. Tears were welling up in her eyes. She was about to turn away until she had the last part of his sentence. He didn't think she would like it, she thought. She dried her tears and smiled a true smile. This set off lots of warning bells in his head. He tensed. When you tell a girl you can't like her, the last thing you expect is for them to be smiling, unless they are planning to kill you and hide the body so the girl you're with wouldn't get to be with you. Naruto was leaning on that since they were in the forest of death, and he was pretty sure even though Anko couldn't beat him in a one-on-one fight, she might resort to other means to do away with him. So all I have to do is make her like the idea of sharing you, huh? She said to herself, but Naruto heard her. She was weighing the pros and cons in her mind. Seiwa, all is said was duh. Oh, don't worry your pretty little blue eyes, I will take care of everything, said Anko. She licked her lips and skipped away from Naruto to go look for Hinata, until she stopped and turned around. I will be seeing you later, Foxy-kun, I wouldn't keep you waiting. With that she shunshin away. Naruto was left standing there like a deer in a headlight. The hell just happened? He asks to no one in particular, looking around hoping to get an answer, only to get a loud roar in the distance. He sighed and decided to wait and see how this will play out. He just hoped this doesn't make things awkward between Anko and him. Oh well, guess I can go home and practice my fuinjutsu or something, and he teleport home. XXXX. Everyone had passed their test and was now genin with the almighty Uchiha being Rookie of the Year. Things couldn't get more boring. At the same time, Iruka walked into class and began his long speech about being ninjas and something like that, making his previous thought insignificant. Team 7 consists of Uchiha Sasuke, Haruno Sakura and Sai. Your Jonin sensei is Hitaki Kakashi. After some shouting courtesy of Sakura, he continued. Quote. Team 11 is Uzumaki Naruto and his sensei is Yamato. Huh. Hey sensei, how come the Dobi didn't get a team? I thought only 3-man cell can have a sensei. A student asked while everyone else was wondering the same thing except Naruto and Hinata. Naruto would have thrown a fit if he was on the same team as Sakura and Sasuke. Sasuke smirked at that. The Dobi must suck so bad the Hokage had to give him a sensei so he can work and catch up with us. The whole class laughed at that. Yay, Sasuke-kun is way better than you, Naruto baka, screeched Sakura. Naruto as well as Kiba and his pet Akamaru cringed at her over-boisterous voice. Her deportment is that of a fangirl. The ninja world was nowhere for a fangirl. Naruto just didn't bother with the both of them. With that, Iruka left the class to their own devices as he congratulated them one last time before leaving the class to wait for their sensei. One by one the teams disperse and then the rookie Jonin come and take their students. Hinata was happy she got Kurenai to be her sensei since she knew her for years. The only thing bothering her was Kiba, who keep humping her like a piece of turkey on Thanksgiving. She liked Shino. He was mostly silent and more times than not would be logical. He wouldn't do or say something without logical meaning. With her last thoughts, she bid Naruto farewell. Just as they were about to leave, they saw a man with brown hair and black eyes. Standard Jonin flak jacket with Anbu-style pants and shirt. He had his forehead protector like the Nadaime Hokage, coming around at the side of his face like a helmet. You know how Yamato looks, right? Not good at describing him. So Naruto-san, it's been a while since I last saw you. Hope everything is good with you. Yamato greeted with a smile. Naruto returned the curt gesture with a nod and a smile of his own as they made their way to their usual training ground where Naruto had first went to help master his wind element. I am fine, Yamato Taicho. Been training with Ero Sennin and Anko-chan, also Hinata-chan. So what are we doing here? Asked a slightly inquisitive blonde. I hope we don't have to do that stupid test because we both know I am no pushover. He plainly said with a raised eyebrow. No, we're no going to do a test. Yamato shivered slightly at the memory of the last time they sparred, which was about 3 years ago. He almost got frozen and his wood style was no help either. He had fought a few ice users in his time, but Naruto really took the word, unpredictable, to a new level. I just wanted to see how you are doing and the Hokage wanted to talk to us. So I think we should be heading there as well. With that said, they shunshined to the Hokage tower, with Naruto appearing first and was seated on the window the same way his sensei Jiraiya does. He was looking at the old man giggling and reading one of his many Ika books. He wasn't any better as he have the latest volume. Actually, it's the one that's not supposed to come out until in the next couple months. Hinata had caught him reading it once, but she didn't say anything, she just looked at him straight in the eyes blankly. Anko was another thing, she even reads with him sometimes. Weird. He shook his head, getting rid of any thought of her. She didn't show her presence for the few days he was off. He coughed slightly in his hand to get the Hokage's attention. In which the Hokage jumped and hid his book quickly and looked around only to see Naruto staring at him with raised eyebrows. Ah, ha, Naruto-kun, the old man chuckled nervously. How nice of you to show up so abruptly and without saying a word. Where is Yamato? I thought he was supposed to be with you. And just then there was a knock on the door and Yamato entered, looking a little irritated that a boy was able to outrun him in the speed department. He was an Anbu, for crying out loud. Little did he know that Naruto is arguably one of the fastest persons in the elemental nations without the Hirishin. He did have seals all over his body. So what can we do for you, Hokage-sama? You said it was urgent. Inquired Yamato after getting back his bearings. Yes, well, give me a minute. After that the Sandaime send his secretary for the person he wanted to see. As the door opens, Naruto can honestly say that she had to be one of the most beautiful women he had ever seen in his life. She was a slender woman in her early 20s. She had green eyes, and ankle-length auburn hair styled in a herringbone pattern at the back, a top knot tied with dark blue band, with 4 bangs at the front. 2 bangs are short with one covering her right eye and 2 are long, crossing each other on her bust, just below her bust. She wore a long-sleeve, dark blue dress that falls just below her knees. It seems to be open at the front with a zip and is kept open at the front right side from waist down. The dress only covers up to the upper part of her arms and underside of her with mesh armor underneath her clothing. She also has shorts with the same color as her dress and underneath those, mesh leggings reaching down to her knees. Around her waist she wears a belt with pouch attached to the back to the left along with high-heeled sandals and shin guards reaching up over her knees. As the woman walked in the room she didn't notice the other 2 occupants inside. Good day, Hokage Dono, have you come to a decision about my problem? Because I can't stay longer, I have to return to my people. She asked, getting to the point even though she was the one being called. He nods his head and pointed to the side of the room showing the other 2 occupants. Yes, I have, Mei-san. I would like to introduce 2 persons to you. This is Uzumaki, Naruto and Yamato, and I think they would be enough to help you with your problem. As she looked to where he pointing to, she couldn't stop the small blush that crept on her cheek. She can honestly say she have now seen the most beautiful blue sapphire eyes she had ever seen in her life, looking directly at hers. As she was looking at him lost in his eyes, she didn't notice he walks up to her and grabbed her right hand and kissed the back of her hands. "It's a pleasure to meet such a beautiful woman, Miss Terumi," complimented Naruto. Mei couldn't help but blush more, completely taken aback by this young man's compliment. "Well, it is my pleasure, Naruto-kun, to have such a handsome young man accompany me, and I have never seen such beautiful eyes in my life," replied Mei in a flirtatious voice that even the Hokage shivered at. She returned one of her bangs behind her ear and shook his hand. Naruto smirked at the flirty woman. She could give Anko a run for her money. "Naruto-kun, huh?" chuckled Naruto softly. "Well, Mei-chan, I hope we get acquainted with each other as we travel." No one in the room missed how Naruto punctuated the word acquainted in that sentence as he kissed her hands again. As he was about to step back, he heard a cough and turned to see both the Hokage and Yamato were looking at him and Mei, both with different expressions on their face. For Yamato, he had a tick mark on his head and was irritated at being ignored like that. As for the Hokage, he had a big smile on his face while giggling softly like a schoolgirl. "Oh, that's my boy Naruto." With his thought finished, Sarutobi cleared his throat and spoke, "Okay, Naruto-kun, let's get to business," and with that the atmosphere changed to a serious one. Mei was quite surprised to see the same teen she was flirting with was all professional in a matter of seconds. Sarutobi continued, "So Naruto-kun, what do you know about the situation in Kiri?"